The familiarization video of the basic panel functions of the Savannah Stoker 4.5. First, we'll start with the off switch. Of course, it turns it on and off like other previous versions. This has a second feature, and you press and hold, it goes into a cold smoke mode. That's off, and you can set it to fan speed 1 low, fan speed 2 medium, fan speed high 3, and then you set it and it'll start. And you can turn it off. Then we'll do a startup, and Bob already did a video on a normal startup, and I'm going to do an alternate startup to show people the ones that have a high-speed auger. In my case, I have a 3 RPM auger in this one, and other ones that people that are getting a lot of smoke on startup. You can start in a manual mode. So first of all, we press start. You can see the ignition's on and the auger's running. We press the set button. We go to auto manual. We're going to go to manual, and we're going to set this down to, I'm going to set mine down to about 12. Now this will just start up nice and gently because the auger's going to run 12% of the time on the startup. I'll pause here and resume after the startup. Now as it climbs through temperature of about 140, I'll go back to the auto mode. Press that AM auto manual mode button and set that back to our set value temperature. And I'll pause here. Okay, we got a good start, so we'll talk about the other functions, but first we'll talk about the displays. The top display is called the PB, process value, and that's the value of the RTD inside the pit transmitted to here, so it's your pit temperature. And anybody is interested, RTD means resistant temperature detector. The bottom is where you set your temperature, the SV. Next displays we have is we can set in this auto mode, and we can see what the auger is doing. Right now the auger is running 25% of the cycle time. Okay, we can set that back. The other procedure, other one is the food temp probe. If we put the 2 food temp probe in, this is in the bottom is now indicating the food temperature, in this case ambient temperature. And I can change that and see what I'm set at by that, or make any changes. It doesn't make any difference. And I'll go back and take the food temp out, and it'll go back to set value of 180. It's climbing up. Other screens we have is for cook mode. You press this here and you go into the cook mode. We are now cook off, and you can go to off and you can run, update and run. So on run, then you go back through it. Now I'm not going through it because there is a procedure or a movie on it already. Other one is we go into the operational parameters by holding the set button until it changes to ignition. This is ignition. It's set at 130, so when the pit comes up to 130, the ignition will turn off depending on its time. And you can go down through, and we're not going to discuss it. I'll discuss them all later. You page down with the set button, and you make your value changes with the arrows, and you set, and you go to the next one. Well, okay. We'll go and look at we'll look at the operational parameters as we have time. Ignition set at 130. This is for auto read light, and that's set at 10, which is 10%. 10% of your set value temperature. If it goes below 10% of set value temperature, the igniter is going to come on for auto read light. This is for auto tuning. You go to 2 for auto tune, and it'll go back to 3 on its own after it's tuned. This is integral. You don't mess with that, nor is proportional or the derivative. T equals cycle, which is the total cycle time of the auger on and off. In this case, 20 seconds. And I'm running 8% of that is on and the 12% off. PB1 is calibration for the temperature probe, the RTD, to calibrate for offset from the middle to the center of the pit. This is to calibrate the food probe if ever needed. This is your output low or minimum that the auger run in percent. 8% of the cycle time will run minimum. It'll run up to whatever it needs, but it'll run on that. This is the high in my case. I have it set at 100%. Most cases you probably run 70 to 85. And I believe default is 85. This is centigrade or Fahrenheit. We're in Fahrenheit. This is, if we have the food temp probe in, it's going to show the food temp. And if you change it, it's going to show the SV value. We're going to leave in the food temp. This is fan speed 3, 2, or 1. Most grills are going to run at 3 unless they're cold smoking. This is the fan will turn off when you shut it off and cool down at 120. And this is for the startup. In my case, it's going to go to 180. A lot of them set them to 160. And this one here is for reset. If you want to ever go back to all the default values, you set this to yes, and it'll take everything back to the day you got it. Back to reset. And you go set that out. The other thing, if you go into the parameter, operational parameters, and you make a change of something, and you set it, you can go to the next one. You cannot go back up. You can only page down through. But if you only want to change one, you can go. You don't have to page one at a time. You hold the set button and you page through and exit. The other thing we have down here is the auger button. You press the auger and it is go grill. That means it's going to go 100% of the time. If we change or we set to our other display, we'll see that auger's running 100% of the time right now. And that's it. It's going wide open. Taking that off. When the auger is on, you get a display light auger. When you're in the manual mode, the light comes on. And when the ignition is on, as you saw earlier, that light came on. I think that covers all the basics of this here. So y'all have a good day, and I hope this helps.